Welcome into another edition of New Track Record Podcast. Caleb Hatch, Justin Kinney with you from the WELT studios. And Justin, we have an oval to talk about before the Indianapolis 500. Well, this is the first time since, 23? I should have looked this up before we started. They had an oval before
An oval,
Indy.
and what would it have been?
It was Texas.
Texas, yes. 23, 22? Has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it was... You're right. It may have been 22. No, 23. They raced at Texas, yes, second race of the year after a month layoff.
Yeah.
But here we are, second oval, first oval of the season, second race, and we have a thriller.
Yeah, which I feel like... thank you for coming back and listening to the pod after our completely inaccurate predictions of what was going to happen at this race, both ratings, both attendance and show. Like, we had no idea, but us being longtime IndyCar fans, we expected the worst, yet we got the best of IndyCar all around. Very successful event at Phoenix, and we're here to break it all down, and we're back at it this week at Arlington.
Yes. I mean, the crazy thing is you have Phoenix, an oval, and yes, it's IndyCar's race there, but it's essentially a new event. You have Arlington this weekend. Obviously, you have Markham later on, and of course, DC, which we'll talk about the DC track layout as well a bit later on in the show today. But overall, I think this is the one you thought, okay, this one has the most potential in terms of Phoenix. We know DC is a one and done. Markham feels like an unknown. Arlington, we know will be big.
Yes.
Whether the racing delivers remains to be seen. I think it will. But Phoenix just felt like the biggest question mark of them all, and it absolutely delivered. And I think before we get into our three things, you talked about how we were wrong, like one on attendance. Things were trending positively. There were reports that ticket sales were up like 100% from the previous year for Saturday.
Yeah.
You had the thing we didn't think about is NASCAR rubber was down, which actually rubbered up the track instead of making it worse.
Yeah.
Firestone delivered. They had that tire test with, I think, Rossi and Dixon, and that delivered for IndyCar and making sure they got the tires right. So all in all, just amazing weekend for IndyCar. And for people upset about them being, quote-unquote, second fiddle or even third fiddle, because O'Reilly, formerly Xfinity, formerly Nationwide, Busch, whatever you want to call it, raced after them. I think in the right circumstances, this was well executed. I don't think we need IndyCar to be doing this more than 2 times a season, and 2 even feels like a stretch. But I think they found something here, and let's hope it returns for next year, and it sounds positive that it will.
Marshall Pruitt said on one of his stories coming out of the weekend that IndyCar was already asked prior to the race if it would like to return for 2027. A no-brainer for IndyCar. So we expect Phoenix to be back. I told you, we talked about it before we started recording, that we fall as IndyCar fans fall into this, well, it worked one place, so now we have to start doing it everywhere. And it started a big debate on other ovals that could be not just partnering with NASCAR, but other ovals that IndyCar should return to. And we had a post go very popular this week that we'll break down later, and with some interesting results. But let's just appreciate it that it worked one place, right? Because this series desperately needs ovals, needs to hold on to its existing ovals, and needs ovals before the 500. I think one of the best points that Marshall Pruitt made coming out of the weekend was the fact that if anything, for the championship, you need some ovals early on because of the dominance that Alex Palou shows on street and road courses. 18 of his 20 career wins coming on those tracks. So if anything, it keeps the point standings, of which we do not touch until after the 500, by the way, at least prevents him from running away like he did last year. And we saw the results of Phoenix kind of bear that out. So just an incredible weekend for IndyCar. I couldn't care less about playing second fiddle to NASCAR. Yeah, I don't want it to happen very often, but at the same time, it worked out all across the board. And who knows, maybe he made some new fans on Saturday who came out for stock cars and hopefully fell in love with open wheel.
And I think that's the big thing. And let's get to our three things. And my first takeaway is actually off-track related. And my big takeaway from this whole weekend, and really where we're at with IndyCar right now in particular here in 2026, Fox has completely transformed the trajectory of this sport. And I think this weekend at Phoenix completely bared that out. And it was kind of like the true point in time where you could really point to and say, yeah, IndyCar is different now. It is shifting on an upward trajectory, not, making incremental gains, but I feel like it's actually making big gains. And I think this weekend was kind of like that line where things shifted forward. And I think you're going to see IndyCar really rise here over the next few years because of what Fox has done. Not just being, the TV partner and a third owner of the series and IMS and all that, but because of what they've done on the promotion and marketing side, which we always said was the big thing that IndyCar couldn't figure out over the years. And now having Fox on board, Fox essentially put together this doubleheader weekend with NASCAR. And I know fans, like you said, want to grumble about, well, IndyCar raced Saturday, early afternoon local time in Phoenix, and O'Reilly came after, and NASCAR came after. But here's the thing. You look at the crowd, and yes, it was not a sellout, but you look at that crowd, that is as good or better than what you're going to get on most of the ovals on the schedule outside, of course, the Indianapolis 500. So I thought that was promising. The crowd looked great. The capacity at Phoenix is 42,000. And the only sections that were pretty bare were the ones that were in complete sun.
Right.
So, I didn't see anything on crowd estimates. Some people threw out 30,000. It might be a little high, but definitely 25, right? You would feel like 25.
Yeah, and for people that grumble about partnering with NASCAR, when IndyCar was a solo show in the 3-year stretch, it went to Phoenix from 2016 to 2018.
They're lucky to get 15,000 at any of those.
Yeah,
probably the 3 races combined, felt like they got less than what they had on Sunday.
Exactly.
Or on Saturday, So Fox has transformed the sport, and IndyCar is lucky to have them on board. And what they've done from the technology side, the broadcast side, and I understand there are some complaints. Timing and scoring had issues. I still don't understand why this continues to be an issue. Hopefully they get that figured out. But overall, they're presenting IndyCar as... One, they're marketing the stars, Newgarden, Palou, Power, Pato. They're bringing new technology to the broadcasts, and outside of the timing and scoring issues, which unfortunately caused a big issue for fans in the second race last year and also second race this year, and obviously not as bad as Thermal last year. But they've done so much to transform the sport, and it feels like because of the TV rating, getting over 1.2 million viewers on a Saturday afternoon, mind you. That's exceptional. We were hoping for 1 million, and they crushed that. So it feels like everything, and we'll run through the numbers a bit later, but it feels like everything is going on this upward trend and not incremental growth like we've seen for so many years. You could probably go back to 2016, where it felt like, okay, things are actually trending up a little, but it's been incremental since then. Now I feel like IndyCar is taking off.
We are not used, as a fan base, for longtime fans, used to such a run of positivity.
Yes.
We're always inevitably waiting for the rug to be pulled out and something devastating happen, whether it's on track, off track, whatever. And so the run of dubs that IndyCar continues to put up is just so alien to a lot of us. And so it is just amazing to see, because I think both of us questioned if even the level that IndyCar has reached now would ever have been achievable again.
They're getting numbers for TV ratings that outside the Indy 500 they haven't had for 10, 15 years at events, but they're getting it consistently and not in a one-off where,
right.
Like I remember one year Mid-Ohio got a massive number because I had the British Open, or now known as the Open Championship, as a lead-in. But
right.
IndyCar is like closing in on that kind of number just with a regular event. I mean, there was I don't think there was a good lead-in for this, right? I don't remember what was on Fox locally before. I couldn't tell you.
I don't think so. It wasn't anything. I mean, yeah, it's only been 2 races, but the drop that we saw from race 1 to race 2 last year didn't happen. And so we hope, I mean, the goal is outside of the 500, if you can average over $1 million per race for the season, that'd be huge for the sport, both for the series, for the teams as well in terms of advertising. And so far, so good. So you look at it, and it's kind of my 1-2. It's kind of piggybacking as well, like a 1B, is the fact that Fox has been kind of maybe the forceful intermediary between IndyCar and NASCAR to work together. And I thought Marshall Pruitt said it best. IndyCar's best days are behind it. NASCAR's best days are behind it. And they've had this new threat in the United States the last couple years in Formula One. Now, has Formula One reached its apex now that it's on Apple and people can't find it on ESPN? You and I agree with that. But they've also seen an outward threat to them, and Fox has brought them together and say, hey, we're going to work together. And I thought it was a great weekend. You had Clint Boyer, who was phenomenal in the 2-seater. You had Joey Logano, who was phenomenal in the booth. You had just compliments going back and forth. It even goes back to St. Pete, right, with Jimmy Hinch in trucks and Dario in a truck.
Well, and you even had Townsend and Hinch on the NASCAR Cup broadcast on Sunday.
Correct.
And I noticed on social media, a lot of NASCAR people are like, wow, they're great. Like, why can't we get them on our broadcast? They're giving us great insight and talking about the racing. And here's Boyer talking about Wendy's orders or something. Like, I was like, wow. I get everyone has complaints about everything. But
yeah.
I just thought that's pretty telling that the NASCAR fans really love the insight that guys who, I mean, I don't think they've driven Cup cars before.
Sure.
So.
And that's the thing. We enjoyed Joey Logano's insight on Saturday.
Joey Logano, I thought, gave a better perspective on the Pillow VK crash than
the regular guys in the booth. So I just felt like, and I think Fox is like this, and maybe the motorsports environment in general in North America is like, why do we have to be enemies? Let's just work. Yeah, we want to beat the other one in ratings, and each series, I think, has things that the other wants, right? NASCAR would love to have an event the profile of Indianapolis, and Daytona is not to the level of Indianapolis, I'm sorry. And then IndyCar obviously would like to have the viewership and the revenue of NASCAR. So they both have things that the other would like, and I think for a long time that's kept the two as not maybe enemies, but we're not working with the other. But sometimes it takes somebody like Fox to bring the parties together and say, look, this is going to happen. You guys need to figure it out and play nice. And they have. And I think it opens up other possibilities. And not just continuing at Phoenix, but as we'll talk a little bit later, potential other places that this could work. And to us, maybe no more than 2 a year. But at the same time, if you can make it work at one track that IndyCar has struggled to get back to and put butts in the seats, Phoenix, why couldn't you do it at a potential other track where IndyCar used to race and potentially put butts in the seats? And we'll talk about that a little later.
All right, let's get to, I guess, my number two. And I think my second takeaway was that as great as Christian Rasmussen was on Saturday, I guess we should have all seen it coming that Josef Newgarden would swoop in at the end, take tires late, drive through everyone, and cruise to a win. I mean, he is still the oval master of this series. Nothing has changed. Now, I'm still on the boat, and I think you agree, until he wins on a road or street circuit, I'm not going to consider him a championship contender unless IndyCar magically shifts the schedule to being 50% or more of ovals. But he is still the oval master of this series. And his drive on Saturday, I mean, he laid low behind Malukas at the start, kind of ran his race, really just kind of hovered around the top 10, wasn't, had good pit stops, good pit sequences, and, hovered around the top 5. But when the moment mattered, he was there. And that's what I think Josef Newgarden does best, especially on these oval tracks. And we're seeing safe to say the greatest oval driver in IndyCar. I mean, one of the greatest.
One of the greatest, definitely.
Definitely of this era, in this 2000 to present era.
Definitely the current era.
Yes, for sure. And I just think for a guy who didn't dominate the race, which he usually dominates these kind of races, for him to get a win like this where he swoops in and beats everyone with strategy and tires and just timing. I mean, it just shows, one, Penske, as much as we were down on Penske looked pretty good this weekend. We knew they'd look good. I picked Malukas to win. He finished third, won
Penske
his first
driver,
pole.
Right team. I mean, that was the thing for going in this weekend. Is like Penske better look good.
Yes.
Right? Because this is their bread and butter. And they did. And great strategy call on lap 212 to bring Newgarden in. McLaughlin also came in to get fresh tires, and that was the difference. I mean, Rasmussen was trying to hold on to it, couldn't, and ended up Josef getting the win, and Rasmussen finishing all the way back in 14th. But Josef Newgarden just 8 laps led in this race, and getting the dub was huge for Josef. So the Oval King strikes again.
Still has it. What's your second takeaway?
And in the last 2 ovals, he has won.
Yes.
Nashville.
That's true.
And now Phoenix. Let's talk about Christian Rasmussen. I felt like maybe he got a dose of his own medicine a little bit on Saturday. We know the thought processes, the reputation he has in the paddock to be a little wild. And I felt like that was reciprocated on Saturday, whether whoever's fault it was, but you talk about the contact with Power, and Rasmussen didn't handle it in the best way in the post-race interviews when the blame could very easily have gone to Rasmussen, and maybe should. But I think this is who this kid is. But I also think there's a fine line there. Is he had the car, as he said, to win this race, and he didn't. I think right now he's being applauded by his team for the moves he's making and putting him at the pointy end of the field, led 69 laps. But at some point, it's going to be this dude needs to finish, especially when he has a car like he did on Saturday. And he's not endearing himself to guys out on the track. We like it too. Put him out. We'd pick Christian Rasmussen to be in the field every day of the week because of what he brings. But I don't know if he threw it away on Saturday. I don't know if that's fair to say, but he probably should have won this race.
Yes. I don't think he threw it away. I mean, Will Power even acknowledged, his bad, and Rasmussen was obviously very upset, rightfully so. But at the same time, like you said, he probably needed to be a little bit more patient in the situation. He clearly had the better car. He was going to make the move, and he just kind of went for it too early. And
much too early.
I think with what he showed us, though, I'm trying to think of a comparison. And the first name I thought of was Thomas Scheckter, a driver who's uber talented.
Yeah. I think it's a great comparison.
And won a couple races. Probably should have won, though, a lot more. And it was great on the oval, super aggressive, super exciting. I mean, you go back to his rookie year, he's leading the Indy 500 as a rookie and crashed, I think, in turn 4. And that completely changed that race. That would have been, 2002? So Elliott went back-to-back.
Yep.
I think his talent level and what he's bringing to the team, like you said, it's good now, but you got to close these races. And I will say it was a rough day for the spotters in both incidents.
Yes.
I understand people want to assign blame to a driver, but it based on watching what happened, the radio, the spotters, I get that it's kind of a gray area where a car is outside and there's not a lane and they're not quite at the rear wheel, but in both incidents with Power and Rasmussen and then VK and Palou, it felt like the spotters didn't give enough, context or something to help out in those situations. I don't know. That was my takeaway. I don't really place blame on drivers. They weren't racing incidents either, though, to me.
Yeah.
It was more of Palou didn't know VK was there. Power definitely knew Rasmussen was there, but I think Power got a little too aggressive. I mean, both of them were too aggressive. Power just needs to finish a race here with his new team. So
right, exactly. I mean, that's the thing with Power is he needs to find the checkers here. But coming back to Rasmussen, I think after the finish that he had last year to the season and the impressive drive he had, the podium at Gateway, of course, the win at Milwaukee, top 10s at Iowa, and you looked at it and said, obviously a great drive at Indy is okay. Now he's going to take that next step, and he's looked fast, right? Particularly at Phoenix, but he's not getting the results. And at some point, that starts being an annoyance for Ed Carpenter. I'm not saying they're there yet, but at some point it's be like, hey, dude, you just gotta, when you have a great car, maybe if it's first and you can't get first, at least get on the podium, right? Bring it home top 3,
yes.
Bring it home top 5. And you mentioned it, the right move at the wrong time, I'd say, probably too soon. And it ended up throwing away, if not a win, a great finish to now 14th coming out of,
the fact, though, that he still drove that car after hitting the wall twice.
Twice, right?
I mean, that was so impressive. He still finished on the lead lap. And something I noticed, I went back and rewatched the first half of the race the other day, and Power and Rasmussen actually had a side-by-side interaction that was pretty tight on lap 33, where if they didn't touch, it was close. So I thought that was notable. They already had a run-in during that race. And Rasmussen, as they kept saying on the broadcast, was the driver other drivers least liked racing against, especially on ovals. So that's telling. It's nice to have a guy on track who's super aggressive, and it's checkers or wreckers for a guy like Rasmussen.
Yeah.
Fun to watch, made for a very entertaining show. But man, you have to be gutted if you're Christian Rasmussen to not have the win after the race that you had on Saturday.
Absolutely. What is your number 3?
My number 3, let's talk about Palou VK. And I said earlier, both spotters, it was tough situations, and Alex Palou even admitted that he didn't think anybody was there. Like he said that.
Which is a spotter issue.
Yes.
Right?
And for Palou, just his, I believe, 9th DNF, 100 starts, that per Jenna Fryer. 3 in his rookie season. He no longer leads the championship for the first time in 622 days. That goes back to June 23rd, 2024. I mean,
ridiculous. Just
insane. And he even admitted he didn't know Arenas was there. He posted on socials. Just tough. A tough situation. He'll be back, but it just shows you why IndyCar needs more ovals. It's more of a wild card. And Palou, who is a champion driver, he's won an Indy 500, but no one's going to say, oh, he's really good at short ovals. I think he's still learning everything, and it's such a skill to master. And I thought VK rightfully was upset because I think VK was going to take that spot, and I think you got to give room. As Joey Logano said, I know that Hinch and Townsend disagreed, saying that there's no lane there, but this is oval racing. Like your head's got to be on a swivel, particularly at a track you haven't been to in a long time with a different configuration in terms of the dog leg. And this was early enough in the race that you can't use the excuse of there are marbles up there. Like no one's going to run up there.
Correct.
This was not the time for that.
Yeah, and you maybe you could look at VK too and say maybe a bit of a dangerous move or a over aggressive move so early, but he had the run, right? And so I kind of look at it as a racing incident, right? Those things happen. You mentioned how IndyCar, why IndyCar needs ovals before the 500, and I mentioned it earlier as well, and this was Exhibit A with the unpredictability of ovals, and anything can happen, and Alex Palou is so good and on road and streets that if he gets in front, it's over. It's tough to pass for the lead on road and street courses because we've seen, in socials, just the amount or the lack of passes for the lead in recent years on road and street courses. And a lot of that has to do with Alex Palou. And once he's in front, he's rarely going to put a foot wrong or anything. Mid-Ohio last year being the exception. So we need these kind of races to A, keep the championship interesting, and B, just because they deliver as well. In the end, IndyCar still, its roots are in ovals and ovals like Phoenix. And when it works out there, everybody gets excited because then you start bringing up other tracks that IndyCar is no longer at, which we'll get to. But for me, it was delightful all around. You mentioned him. This will be my third.
Okay.
Will Power. The struggles at St. Pete. Okay. And then what happened to him at Phoenix. It hasn't been good through the first 2 weeks for Will Power. I think it's too simpleton of an argument to just say, oh, he's had bad luck, because he's created his bad luck in a lot of ways. So is this a blip to start the season with a new team, or is this further indication that Will Power is not the Will Power of old?
I mean, I wouldn't put him in the list of top 5 championship contenders, if that's what you're asking.
Which I think maybe, well, I think the series...
Or at best, he's 5th.
Right. I just feel like maybe definitely one of the major storylines of the preseason was, okay, Will Power to a new team, what can he do? And my thought always was like, he's 45 years old. We're not talking about Scott Dixon here, who seemingly can race and be competitive.
But even Scott Dixon wasn't, I mean, yes, he went from 15th to 7th, but he was a non-factor.
He very much was. But I'm talking about in terms of a championship contender, it's like, he wasn't last year. He hasn't been the last couple of years. Even when he won several races in 2024, he didn't finish in the top 3 in points, if I remember. So kind of my thing is I don't know where we go. I don't think he's going to finish as bad as the start to the season has been for Will Power. I don't think he's going to be battling for a leader circle spot all season. But at the same time, it was hyped up as, oh, look what Andretti did getting Will Power, and oh, this is going to infuse blah blah blah. And I was kind of apathetic to it, and it's kind of feeding my apathy through the first 2 races of, is Will Power really going to be resurgent with Andretti? We haven't seen it. Yeah, it's been 2 races, but could this be indicative of the fact that Will Power just is losing his touch? Don't underestimate how big of an adjustment it is for Will Power, who spent so long at Team Penske and having the best of the best of the best and continuity, right? And knowing the cars with Penske and coming into a completely different situation with a completely different OEM and expecting him to hit the ground running. Now, does he eventually find it? Or is this the start of what could be a really rough campaign for Will Power?
I will be very curious what he does this weekend. A new track for everyone. A street course. Andretti's got a great street course program, as we know. Are we seeing Will Power have dominant qualifying and having a good race, or is he still struggling, trying to figure everything out with this new team, new track, as you mentioned, new OEM? This will be a fascinating weekend. And like you said, it's way too early to make a determination, but the fact it's even a conversation 2 races in is surprising.
And it's fair to have that conversation because of how much attention was put upon him going to Andretti, right? Oh, Colton Herta is gone, but we got Will Power coming in, right? And to me, that was a net loss. And a lot of people within Andretti and I think within IndyCar media was trying to convince or give the appearance that was at best or at worst a wash. And I felt it was a net loss. And at least through 2 races, it has been a net loss for Andretti.
With Herta, you had high highs and low lows, but with Power, you thought you'd have more consistency and stability.
Correct. And not wrecking cars.
Yes. That was not part of the expectation. Him wrecking, before the race, in sessions at both St. Pete and Phoenix, certainly not on the bingo card.
And that's the thing is certain IndyCar media, it's just bad luck for Will Power. It's like, it's not bad luck. It was bad driving at St. Pete and it was bad driving at Phoenix in qualifying. Like created those issues. Now, that goes back to my point about spending so much time with Team Penske and knowing those cars inside and out, and now going to a completely different team with a different OEM and different setups and all that stuff. It is a much greater change than anybody was talking about in the preseason, and I think we're seeing that. I think it's a variety of things. I think it's, new team, getting used to a new team. It's Will Power getting up there in age in his mid-40s. It's a conglomerate of things, and we'll see if he can get it right starting this weekend in Arlington.
We shall see indeed. So that wraps up our three things, other takeaways from Phoenix. Newgarden had that hybrid issue early on. They got that fixed, obviously raced through it and got the win.
Grosjean did not get through his issues all weekend.
A clutch issue where we found out way into the race, I guess he's not racing.
It was one of those things. We were so focused on the timing and scoring not being there, but one of the few times it was actually working, you see Grosjean out at the bottom, and you're like, what? We never did hear what was going
on. Let's talk about the rating. So first off, Cup got $2.841 million on FS1. I think that was roughly flat compared to the year prior, if I'm not mistaken.
Still.
Meanwhile, for IndyCar, $1.247 million, up 95% over last year's average viewership for Saturday races. So that would have been Milwaukee and Iowa? No.
Yeah,
Iowa. Yeah, it would have been Iowa and Indy GP.
Yes,
I guess Milwaukee was not a doubleheader last year. It was 2 years ago and back again.
You can't keep track of which small oval is a doubleheader.
Yeah. Up 77% over Thermal last year, which is 704,000. Obviously, that was a disaster. Peaked at 1.468 million, and that would have been at the end of the race, which is always good. And best Saturday IndyCar viewership since Texas during COVID. Remember that opened the season on NBC?
Oh, yeah.
Saturday night race, 1.25 million. We thought, wow, everything's great, and then you can only do so many double headers and repeat tracks, and they just survived that year. And then up 391% against the last Phoenix IndyCar race, which was 254,000 on NBC SN. I mean, think about it. We've gone from Versus, a network no one had heard of.
Yeah.
And then that eventually became NBCSN, went defunct, now is actually back as of last year. And IndyCar's on Fox. I mean, it's just a wild turnaround when you think about that. And we talked about the momentum, but it's just crazy. This is where we're at. A Saturday race getting 1.2 million was a dream for a non-Indy 500 race. Now
on Sunday,
they've achieved that on a Saturday afternoon race. It's just incredible.
It's amazing, and it's great to talk about these numbers, and we hope it continues with the brand new event in Arlington this Sunday.
For sure. Any other final thoughts on Phoenix?
Pleasantly surprised. We expected the worst, and not just got a good race, got a great race, got a great rating. I feel like the crowd was great. Just, again, just not used to all these dubs for IndyCar. And I expect a lot more dubs here coming up in the near future, and Arlington hopefully will knock it out of the park.
So, do we want to talk Arlington or DC?
Well, do we rate the race, or we do that later? We do it in mailbag?
We'll do it in mailbag. Okay. We'll do that later. One other final thought I forgot about. How about Rahal? Graham Rahal, Mick Schumacher, third and fourth in qualifying. Mick had an issue in the pits, an issue on the right wheel. I think the wheel gun broke, they said later on. He fell back. Obviously not the result that he wanted, finishing in 18th, a couple laps down.
But
Graham Rahal,
laps.
Yes, much needed laps. And then Graham Rahal started third, finished ninth.
You expected him to make some more room up because he came in with those other guys late to pit, like Josef did, and Pato and Scott McLaughlin, and he didn't make up much. I mean, he made it through the field, but not as high as Pato and Newgarden were.
He seemed to be good on longer runs.
Yeah,
but all in all, a top 10 for that team on an oval, 2 cars starting in the first 2 rows. I mean, just a big jump forward for that team, and that should give them a lot of confidence. I get that the 500 is a completely different kind of track. I mean, it's an oval, but that's about the only similarity. But it's got to give them a lot of confidence moving forward with the rest of the schedule on ovals, that they can be competitive in terms of pace and also get some results.
Yeah, and credit to ECR. We talked about Rasmussen and how fast he was and didn't get the result, but Alexander Rossi.
He was consistent. I mean, finished sixth, ran around the top 5 most of the race. A solid result. That's what they got to do. And we'll see if they can get more results on the non-ovals.
Yes.
I mean, that's always kind of been the question mark, but that is what they do. And for Graham, it was the best start on an oval since Texas 2012. Started third, should have won. If you remember.
Is that when he was running the high line?
Yeah,
up and
brushed the wall.
Yeah,
and then lost to Justin Wilson late. So
yeah, but good run for him. Good runs for ECR. So some teams showing progress at Phoenix.
Yes, and that stat was courtesy of Tony Donahue. So all in all, great weekend for IndyCar, and we shift to, I guess, what should be another great weekend for IndyCar. Let's talk Arlington. No idea what to expect in terms of how it's going to race, but they've pulled out all the stops. They're Dallas Cowboys stars and some of the like painting of the curbing. There's a yard of bricks past the flag stand. McLaren had their McLaren Fan Fest, probably over 2,000 people there. That from Joey Barnes. You have the straightaway, which is longer than Monza for the F1 straight. Kyle Kirkwood said the back straight is about 700 feet longer than the Monza front straight. That's crazy. And they pulled out all the stops. Pelosi said best street track we have on the calendar. I mean, that's saying it before they've even raced.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I mean, it's a lot of hype. And we're excited. I think we're only a little bit less excited because of, DC coming on board late in the game. But this was the highlight for the schedule, and
the drivers have been excited about this as well. When
rightfully
pulled
so.
In the preseason, this was the race over DC and Phoenix that they were most excited about in terms of new events.
So let's get to, first off, the spotter guide. A couple notable things. Graham Rahal with the Mobil 1 livery, outstanding.
Looks sharp.
That's one of the best looking cars.
Trying to challenge Kiffin Simpson's Sunoco.
Yes. Yeah, which that's still hard.
Yes. And
then the other notable, Marcus Ericsson with InPower. That's a cool looking car as well. Black, green, and blue. And Felix Rosenquist with Texas A&M. Giga Maggies on board. Did you know that every Texas school has like a hand sign? So Gig'em is like a thumbs up kind of thing.
Like this?
Yes.
Like not the thumb.
Not the thumb,
extended,
but the thumb, okay. On the pointer finger.
Have, of course, Hook'em.
Hook'em horns.
You
have Guns Up for Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Does
and
TCU
then
have something?
Sick'em Bears, and that's like a bear claw.
Okay.
Oh, and I forgot TCU has one as well.
We're doing them here in the
you can't see, but you kind of arch your fingers up
like a C, like a Christian.
Yeah, like a C.
Okay.
And I forget what the saying is for TCU. Someone will hopefully point it out to me, but they all have like a saying. And then this is going to be challenging all weekend. Rinus VeeKay back in the black, white, and green car.
Yeah,
and it looks very similar to Louis Foster's car. So good luck, everyone. Good luck. I don't know if you see it, but it's
good luck.
It's pretty much the same. All right, schedule for Arlington Practice 1 is coming up 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, 4 Eastern, FS2, Fox 1 streaming, obviously Sirius XM and IndyCar Radio as well. And then we'll have Practice 2 coming up, and it's weird. They'll have Practice 2 for IndyCar before Indy Lights on Saturday. That will be at 9:30 on FS1, Sirius XM 218, all the regular channels. Qualifying at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon on FS2. Warm-up at 10 a.m. on FS1 on Sunday. And then Lights will race 45 laps, 11 a.m. on FS1. And then Fox coverage starts at 12:30 Eastern, 70 laps, and it'll be 107 green flag on Fox.
How about that?
Who's your pick to win?
Man, brand new event. Now, we've made it to point out, we're not picking Alex Palou.
Yeah.
all season. So Alex Palou is an easy pick. So we're not picking Alex Palou. I will go to win the inaugural race at Arlington. I will go Scott McLaughlin.
Okay. I'm going to go with the driver formerly labeled as a street course merchant, Kyle Kirkwood.
I was thinking about Kirkwood. He was my second choice. So we'll see who can conquer the street course at Arlington. Looking forward to it. Also, pretty cool that Lights is there as well to get the full effect. I think even just a couple years ago, the bigger events, Lights wasn't at, of course, right? Long Beach, Indy, and it felt like they were just kind of there at some of the lesser events. And for them to be at Arlington, I think is a cool deal. So looking forward to watching Lights through the weekend as well. How do you feel about the Fast 6 qualifying?
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about that. I love it. So it'll be single car qualifying Fast 6, whoever was slowest to fastest, right? In that order. I think it's great. I think it's a shame that they didn't introduce this for St. Pete's prior, because I think this should have been introduced at the start of the season. It feels kind of silly doing it into the season, but I love it. I think it's great. I think they should have done this a long time ago.
Do you feel that it will... It's only a one-off right now. Do you feel like this becomes the norm in the near future for road and street courses?
Yes, I do. And I think it's a good move.
I like it too. So builds drama a little bit, as dramatic as qualifying already is. And I think it plays to having a particular driver center stage, right? If you make Fast 6, you're going to have the track all to yourself. You are going to have the camera on you the entire time. Great for sponsors, right? So it's a big deal for cars now to make the Fast 6, even more so than it was before, if anything, for activation, for sponsorship. So looking forward to seeing how it goes and seeing if it's going to be adopted formally going forward.
All right, let's talk about, before we move forward, the DC race layout. And I know people disappointed with the circuit, 1.7 miles, so it's pretty short, 7-turn track around the National Mall. It'll include Pennsylvania Avenue, views of the Washington Monument, U.S. Capitol, Smithsonian, National Archives. It won't go as close to the Capitol because of just kind of regulations and whatnot, but they're expected to reach 180 miles per hour on the course. I thought this was fascinating. It will be a nonprofit 501c3. Any profits going to city charities. I don't know how they'll make profits on a street course in year one, but
with free admission.
Yeah,
but
they'll have some paid areas, obviously, but the National Mall area will be the free admission area. We don't know how many laps. Probably, I don't know, 90 to 100 roughly. But all in all, and lap times will be quick. Expecting about the mid 50 seconds at per Bob Pockrass. Here's my thing: the fact that they pulled this off, they have it on the schedule, they have a track layout. I don't care. Like, it's a one-off. I'm just happy it's happening.
Right.
I'm not here to complain about saying, "Oh, that layout sucks." Like, do we have to be typical IndyCar fans for everything?
We don't.
Yes, we don't.
We don't.
But can we just say, like, it's awesome they get to do this, and whether it races well or not is simply not the point.
Who cares? I mean, if the track layout was 4 90-degree turns and it was a square,
I wouldn't care.
Who cares? You're racing in Washington, D.C., down Pennsylvania Avenue, around the National Mall. Are you serious?
Yeah.
IndyCar is able to pull that off. I couldn't care less what the track looks like. It's just the fact that you're pulling this off. And so I couldn't care less about that. I'm glad it's out, because we were kind of like, well, where's the track map? But now that it's out, I don't care what it looks like, because DC is DC, and IndyCar is going to be racing around Washington, D.C. It's mind-boggling to me, and the track layout is immaterial to me.
I fully agree. It's exciting that for the first time, I feel like, okay, this actually has a shot of happening.
This is actually going to happen.
I mean, when it was put on the schedule, I still had my doubts, but now that we have a track layout, I feel a little bit more confident. I do feel pretty confident it's going to happen now, which means there's still time for something to get in the way. But that's typical IndyCar fandom. If you've been a fan for a long time, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and so far it is not for DC, not for this season, not for the off season leading to the season. It's been
not for the future. Talking about OEMs, right?
I mean,
Chevy and Honda. So I mean, it's coming. Inevitably, there's going to be some bad news somewhere, but let's just bask in the glow of all this positivity while it lasts.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to the mailbag here in a second. But first, if you agree or disagree with us, we'd love for you to interact with us. You can always find us on social media, on Twitter/X. Our handle is IndyCar Podcast. Thanks for all the new follows and interactions this week. It's been outstanding. We're closing in on 1,000 followers, so that's pretty exciting. You can also find us on Instagram, IndyCar Podcast, the handle there. On Facebook, just search for New Track Record. You can email us, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com. A couple emails we'll get to here this week in a bit. And as always, support us via Patreon, patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Thanks to Reed, Rob, and others for their support. And you can download and listen on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. A ton to get to on the mailbag. And let's start with the post that you had on ovals. It absolutely blew up. The fact that we're not even going to be able to read hardly any of these, but we are going to read a notable one because it caught us all by surprise.
But I also have the results of
this and you tabulated this.
Yes.
So let's start with that because I think
too much time on this, by the way, but I was bored at work.
You said name your ideal IndyCar oval schedule. So dozens and dozens of replies here. Thank you, everyone. But Connor Daly himself said, in no particular order, Phoenix, Indy, Gateway, Texas, Kansas, Richmond, Nashville, Milwaukee, Michigan, etc. A lot of good options.
He just wants all ovals, right?
Yes.
Which is obvious for Connor Daly, but it was great to hear from him. But yeah, this blew up, and I took Indianapolis out of the polling.
Because that's a given,
right? But it's interesting. This would be IndyCar fans, but we also had plenty of NASCAR fans chime in as well. The two ovals that IndyCar fans most want to see on the schedule outside of Indianapolis.
Wait, can I guess? Because I actually don't remember the results.
Yes.
Michigan
is number one.
Okay.
Michigan got the most votes. The second would be what?
Milwaukee?
No, they're in the top 5. They're 5th.
Wow. Pocono?
Pocono is second. So the top 2 vote getters, which is fascinating, of which ovals fans want to see IndyCar at, are ovals that they're not at. Michigan and Pocono. And I've always kind of rolled my eyes and scoffed when people are like, oh, you got to go back to Michigan. I'm like, are people going to show up? I know it's not a highly scientific poll and there's not thousands of voters, but at the same time, it was very interesting that a lot of people said Michigan. And you and I have been on the Pocono train, right? But it was really fascinating that the top 2 were Michigan and Pocono. The other top 4 that in the top 6, Phoenix was 3rd, Gateway 4th, Milwaukee 5th, and then Texas 6th. Another track that IndyCar is not at. Interestingly, Homestead got a decent amount of votes. Chicagoland.
That's gaining some momentum.
It very much is. New Hampshire was getting
East Coast Oval
voice. Yep, Richmond in there. I thought the best vote, in my opinion, was Darlington. Actually, there are a couple of people that voted IRP as well. Pikes Peak.
I think I voted Rockingham. Did I?
Rockingham is on there. Charlotte got a decent amount, so there was a lot. But going towards the upper end, it was Michigan, Pocono, Phoenix, Gateway, Milwaukee, Texas. So half actually on the schedule, half not as of right now. IndyCar fans or anybody who voted on this would like to see IndyCar at Michigan and Pocono.
All right, we move forward in the mailbag. Let's get to rate the race time. And how would you rate the Good Ranchers 250?
I initially said an 8.5 to you, and I'm going to stick with an 8.5. The timing and scoring issues cost it a little bit, and I always count a half a point off unless it's a IRL like finish.
like photo
right?
type
photo finish or very
close finish.
yes.
Yeah.
So I had an 8.5. Great race, on track. Issues with Fox, right, with timing and scoring at times for me, because I'm not very bright, was tough for me to follow the race without timing and scoring up. Who had pitted, who was on their pit cycle, who was in the lead, what was going on, et cetera, et cetera. So that really took me out of the race at times. And so for me, I had it an 8.5. How about you?
I have it as a 9, and
Which is fair.
pretty much in line with what people thought. 8.94. So I'm tracking these numbers all season.
Good.
Should have done this a long time ago. But St. Pete got a 6.53, Phoenix an 8.94. I will not be surprised if that is the highest number we see all season in terms of the Phoenix rate the race number.
Definitely. Absolutely.
A very unscientific poll, of course. You can always reply on Twitter/X. We post it after the checkered flag after each race. Other notes to get to. This from last week's episode, you mentioned, like, could Buffalo be in line for a street race? Run_Mark_Run said, Bill's season ticket holder here. Great place for a football game. Terrible place for a race. Talking about the track layout there.
Yeah, it didn't look very friendly around the even the new stadium being built.
So let's get to Pelot VK. So I posted the poll during the race. Nearly 61% of you said Pelot to blame. 39% said VK. And replies here, Jeff Cerneski said, racing incident. Pelot faded up. VK probably should not have been there. Tyler_Allen said, racing crash, but I put any blame on Pelot's spotter. Tyler Wong 65 said, VK 100%. Could have lifted there, but chose not to. Jeremy from HBG went Pelot's spotter. Nick J. Fletcher said, Stingray. Moke Motorsport said, it's clearly Pelot. VK had momentum. And Toro 1970 said, who changed his lane without checking his mirrors. Ooh. It's rare to see Alex Pelot make a mistake.
It is. I go back to, this was the first time he had raced at Phoenix.
Yeah.
And so, it happens. I mean, when your spotter is not on it, or you're not anticipating somebody making a run on the outside, which doesn't happen very often unless you're certain drivers on restarts. Connor Daly does that a lot. But I chalk it up to a racing incident. I don't think there's 100% one aspect, one driver to blame. Just one of those things that happens at oval racing at pace. And I think fortunately for IndyCar fans, it took out Alex Pelot, which at least for another week or for the first time in close to 2 years, we have somebody else leading the championship.
A couple thoughts on the DC track layout. Poet Shevchenko said, simple layout with a wide track. That's the other aspect. It's a wide track. Like, these are wide city streets. These aren't 2 lanes. Yes. This is 4, 5, 6 lanes. Said, we got our Burke Lakefront Airport race just in another city and state. Lynn said, St. Pete is 1.8 miles long. This track is a little shorter. Hopefully it's wide enough to have some good racing. I still think this is a very cool event as a one-off. Hopefully it creates a permanent race in the Northeast area. And that's the goal.
That's the hope.
Is right? Can you create interest and make that happen?
And I think it'll be interesting, and maybe we hear of this during the race weekend, is could representatives from some cities in the Northeast be at that race maybe to check it out and
that's
say,
true.
Let's see what this is all about, and could I picture this in my city? So hopefully we hear some whispers of that, maybe some mayors or city council members or some movers and shakers from some Northeast cities in D.C. checking out that race.
Adam Stern had posted that IndyCar open to extending future seasons into the fall if the right event could be set up with a broadcast lead-in from a football game on Fox, according to Series President Doug Bowles. Now, this is obviously a huge change from IndyCar's kind of mantra. Now, I do find it interesting. People just assume NFL, but could this have a college football lead-in for starters? I feel like that could be a possibility.
I mean, you're looking at, you end the season right now over Labor Day weekend. Mm-hmm. You could very easily have a lead-in from
college football.
Yeah, big noon Saturday on Fox, and on a Saturday, and then race Saturday afternoon. But with the first weekend of college football, does it get buried? Do you do it Sunday potentially, where there's a lighter but that's not. Do you necessarily get a lead in? I don't know. I mean,
or
it's
is it
very vague.
NFL, which we'll get to
which
the
would make sense.
technical aspects
Yes.
of that. But few replies. Tudor Indy said way overdue. I mean, here's my thing. I've always been on board with, can we race to the first weekend in October? There are racetracks that can accommodate. You just need to time it well. Transocean Trojan said Fox having skin in the game is going to make a massive difference in the growth of IndyCar, or at least the attempted growth, which is something I touched on at the start of the podcast. And then Tyler Wong 65 pointing out how this works logistically. So he said, in terms of if it's on a Sunday, this has to be during a Fox single header week to work. 1:30 Eastern for 4 p.m. Eastern NFL markets, 4:30 Eastern for 1 p.m. NFL markets. And then you can read his thread with us on the post on our Twitter account talking about how this would work. He goes into the technical details. It's all very confusing.
It very much is.
And I read it and I still don't understand it.
I mean, Tyler Wong knows his stuff with this. Basically, it's, to me, if you followed up a 1 o'clock game with an IndyCar race, not every market across the country would get the race, because there are some markets that would get the 4 o'clock.
Yes. Now, if Fox isn't doing a national NFL game in the 4 o'clock window,
correct, it wouldn't.
The
be very
race
many.
would have to wrap up, or it would start at, I think, 4:30.
Right, just to give enough time for those 1 o'clock games and stuff.
And then, if not, it would have to wrap up by, I think, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it's all very confusing, but it's not as easy as what it sounds like.
No.
Sure.
My thing is, if you squeeze it in, starting at 7:30 is like the cut time, right, for the late games, and start it, and I get that you go up against Sunday Night Football, but if you start it almost immediately, you could probably get almost half your race in before Sunday Night Football starts at 8:20.
Basically, the point that I try to make is, if you had a late afternoon race that was in that second NFL window, there's always a West Coast game or two that Fox has that Seattle or San Francisco or the West Coast are only getting that game. They're not getting the early game, they're getting the late game, which means if IndyCar raced at the same time, those markets would not show the race live, at least. So that's the concern. That's my point bringing it up, is there's, even if you don't have a doubleheader week, there are games in both windows on both networks, depending on where you live.
Elsewhere on mailbag notes and some thoughts on, you had posted, when's the last time IndyCar and Firestone nailed the package for an oval on the first try? Kudos to both. Jeff Cerneski said, hopefully this will be a model for the future for ovals and road courses. Street courses will always be a guess. Lynn said, first test that Firestone did with Dixon and Rossi made this happen. If you remember, they did that test a couple days after the NASCAR race was run, so the track had a lot of good rubber, had a lot of Goodyear rubber from that weekend. And then Rinsky 420 said, it's been exceptionally rare. Firestone, very overrated partner of IndyCar.
Ooh.
Aside from sponsoring races, they do very little activation outside of racing channels to highlight their involvement. Would love to see IndyCar open up an RFP to see if they can get a better deal. Now, here's what's interesting about this.
Firestone hater.
This was tried under Randy Bernard, and team owners went absolutely ballistic. They did not want a change. Was it Continental Tire, right, that I believe he was looking at? And this would have been 2010, 11, somewhere around there, 12 at the latest. But Bernard was axed by 12,
yes.
right? So
not after 11, I think.
I think this was 10 or 11. And this story leaked out, and I remember reading it from Robin Miller on Racer, and team owners went nuts. The idea was dropped basically immediately. That's all it took.
Everybody wants competition, but competition costs money. And why change something that's not a problem, in my opinion?
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
There's plenty of other things we need to fix for this sport, or are in the process of fixing. Firestone tires aren't one of them, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. And then a couple emails to get to. First, this from Lynn. Gentlemen, Phoenix IndyCar race was amazing. Best race over the weekend in the double. Rumors has this race will return per some social media posts. My take is that this race will only be on schedule due to the Fox relationship. Do you really think NASCAR wants IndyCar racing on their track putting on a better show than their own race?
Not necessarily, but I think it goes back to it's two different kinds of racing, and people have different tastes, right? So speed isn't always the end all. If that was the case, NHRA would be the highest watched racing in the world, right?
Yes,
because it's the fastest. So,
but is it the fastest racing on earth?
Well, I always kind of roll my eyes a little bit at that. Look, I know it's a good catch-all, but when watching Formula One over the weekend last week, and how fast they are going around Australia, Albert Park, I'm like, this is much faster than IndyCars on street and road course. I think IndyCar is the fastest racing on earth at certain tracks. Okay. So, but anyway, I think NASCAR has to do what Fox wants it to do.
Yes. Lynn goes on to say it'll be based on the Fox relationship and Fox reminding NASCAR how much they pay in TV rights fees to them. Business is business.
But I also feel like maybe NASCAR isn't as attached to, we can't team up with IndyCar because it's faster type thing. I think NASCAR needs to say, yeah, they're faster, but we can beat and bang and we have the personalities and blah, blah, blah. And that's all true. And that's perfectly fine. I think both can coexist, not consistently, but a couple times a year, sure. And you and I were kind of looking at the NASCAR schedule, and if it stayed similar next year or coming years in terms of the races on Fox, you go through the schedule and you look at May 3rd or the first weekend of May this year at Texas, and you say, could that be the second partner up?
Or do they shift this? Do they do Phoenix as a standalone for IndyCar, which would really jack up the schedule? You would have to race in February, I'm on board with that, to be clear.
Are you? I mean, just because it worked once, I'm still worried about 2016 through 2018 when nobody showed up. I just don't mess with what works.
If you go that early where you could still have, do people I know people snowbird in Florida. Your parents do that. Do people do that in like Phoenix and Scottsdale?
Yeah, I'm sure there's people that go there and they go to spring training games. I think more people just move permanently to Arizona.
But I say if you do it Super Bowl weekend, which is ironically Valentine's Day next year, where I'm sorry, I don't need to watch 5 hours of Super Bowl pregame about two teams I probably don't care about anyway.
Correct.
Playing in the game. That's the time to do it, in my opinion, if you're going to do it standalone.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what they should do, but that would be the way to do it, and to still have Texas as a double.
Yeah, so I look at the schedule, and just based on this year's schedule, people are throwing out Kansas, but that is usually Long Beach weekend, middle of April. I mean, Bristol,
I don't think Kansas is a fit either.
No, but I think Texas, if you're talking about a similar, IndyCar has a long history at Texas, like it did at Phoenix, has struggled to make something work there in recent years, like Texas. And I think it checks all the boxes. It's an open weekend. It's another oval before the Indianapolis 500, which I think would be great. 1 is great. 2 would be sensational.
Problem is, are you oversaturating the market having a race in Arlington and then basically not even 2 months later having a race at Texas Motor Speedway, which is outskirts of Fort Worth.
Correct.
Where
is the Metroplex.
Yeah, they're the same market. So that's the thing.
That's a good point.
Completely different tracks, but same market. And then this email from Josh: Phoenix race was a lot of fun. Had close racing and what looked like a nice crowd. Even the podium ceremony was entertaining. Shoving steak in the faces of the drivers maybe wasn't the best idea, but it made me think, what if every title sponsor gave away some of their product to the winners? Which race would you choose to win?
It's kind of like bowl games, right? The Mayo Bowl, you get Mayo.
Yes.
Obviously,
Pop-Tarts. So here's the rundown. There's a nice chart that he did. Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, tires. Good Ranchers 250, beef. Java House Grand Prix of Arlington, coffee. Children's of Alabama Grand Prix powered by Amherst. Children? Question mark.
Throw kids at
I don't think we could do that. Suncio Grand Prix car warranties. Indy 500 presented by Gamebridge retirement account. Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix presented by Lear.
I mean, I know
you got to be a vet, right? Bommarito Automotive Group 500 presented by Axalta and Valvoline. A car, a case of oil. XPEL Grand Prix at Road America presented by AMR. Tinted windows. Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. Honda Civic Type R. Porsche Bourbon Music City GP. Bourbon Baby.
That's mine. That's
Bitmile.com Grand Prix of Portland. He said, I spent some time on their site. I still have no idea what they really do. I agree. Ontario Honda dealers, Indy at Markham, another Civic Type R, and then Snap-on IndyCar weekend at Milwaukee. Toolbox full of Snap-on, possibly the most valuable thing on the list. I don't know. The vet.
Yeah.
I mean, the most practical would be tires, beef, or coffee.
Yes.
I mean, you have obviously the cars.
Cars
that would be
nice,
cool.
but,
The bourbon would be cool. I don't know.
What about the Freedom 250? Just get Freedom at you, right? I guess, maybe.
Do we have a title sponsor for Laguna Seca?
No, we don't.
Okay.
As far as I know. So
maybe I go all in and say whatever Laguna Seca is.
Yeah, there you go. That's what you want.
That's what I want.
How about Good Ranchers, too? Because it's
great marketing.
Yeah, and the fact that however it came about, that's a new activation for IndyCar, right? Good Ranchers?
They've been with Scott McLaughlin on the car, but they haven't been a race title sponsor.
Yeah, so I thought that was significant at Phoenix, is to have a different title sponsor. So I know it's a new race, but sometimes with those new races, you still have the same sponsor. So no, that was cool. We'll see how things play out, and hopefully, if this weekend at the Java House Grand Prix, it's not hot coffee that they get dumped on.
Yeah, it's got to be cold brew.
Yeah, it's got to be cold brew.
That wraps up the mailbag. As always, send us your tweets, emails, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com, questions, comments, rants, what have you, for the mailbag. News and notes time. Let's start with the racer mailbag. And there wasn't a whole lot, right, in this week's edition.
Not too much.
But let's pull up the notes, and here we go. So Marshall Pruitt said, unaware of a performance clause in Nolan Siegel's contract, which I think, to me, it's interesting who's out of a ride first, Stingray or Nolan Siegel. I mean, I think it's both on the table for them after the 500.
Yeah, especially with the way both have started the season. Single car Fast 6 quals could be adopted at other road and street courses if it's well received at Arlington. Will Power's contract rumored for 3 years. Could be a long 3 years if it doesn't start getting back.
Yeah. Apparently someone was mad they featured Jameis at St. Pete's.
The mailbag is just weird, man. I mean, if you start the first question this week, the first comment was just like hating on Fox, and and they claimed it was the Fox's first race. Like, obviously somebody that's not that in tune with IndyCar. It was just bizarre. It's like, it seems like in the weekends or once the season starts, the crazies really come out in the mailbag.
Someone predicted Colton Herta will be back in IndyCar by the 500. Well, he had a good run. I actually watched this. You have to get the F1 TV app, which you get for free if you have Apple TV.
Ah, yeah.
So I watched it. He drove his way through the field, was 7th in the feature race, struggled in the sprint, but that's because he took super soft tires before a late restart,
Gotcha.
Trying to drive through. But everyone who follows it basically said, yeah, that was a really good debut race for him. And I think that was it.
Yes.
For the crazies on the mailbag. So that's it for that. Other notes, tickets on sale now for we talked about Snap-on. The Snap-on IndyCar weekend tickets on sale for the race at the Milwaukee Mile. So you can get your tickets for that if you haven't already. We had a picture of Michael Jordan with Scott Dixon. And Chip Ganassi Racing said 2 goats, 12 rings. We'll have a tweet of the week following that up. That's pretty funny. Callum Ilott posted a picture of an Aer Lingus liveried IndyCar at the Indianapolis International Airport, and it had the number of 90. And he, he's just playing with, trying to...
He's just toying with us,
yes,
isn't he?
Exactly.
It
was founded, though, in 1936, so it is the 90-year anniversary of the airline, but take with that what you will. Parking and camping for Indy 500 race day are sold out. Of course, that's parking and camping on IMS grounds, to be clear.
Correct.
Still plenty of parking options in neighborhoods, which is what I always do. Connor Daly. We didn't talk about this. Connor Daly finally confirmed with Ryan Reinbold Racing for his 13th attempt. He's had top 10s in 4 of the last 5 years, I believe, at Indy, and led laps in most of those. He will have a primary sponsor, and it was a company I have not heard of. Arco will be on board, which obviously was sponsor for Rinus VeeKay last weekend at Phoenix, but his primary sponsor in the number 23 will be Kingspan, which I have not heard of.
It is his first drive with DRR since 2024, so second in 3 years. That was a 10th place finish. Came all the way up from 29th that year to finish 10th for DRR with Cusick. So we'll see if he can continue the good runs he's recently had at Indy. It's 4 straight top 10s, Caleb.
4 straight,
6th, 8th, 10th, 8th in his last 4 starts. Not bad for a guy that's never qualified better than 11th.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
How about that?
Also, speaking of the 500, tickets mailed out. Indy 500 tickets for those who renewed. So they posted an infographic, IMS did. 173,000 tickets. So that's roughly 2/3 of the permanent seating. 33,000 envelopes, 50 states, 32 countries. Weighs more than 6,800 pounds. 60 employees filled the envelopes. Took 44 days to package the envelopes, more than 1,100 hours.
How many paper cuts were suffered? I'd like to see that.
That's a great question. More than 700 postal trays. So they did not have paper cuts suffered, but I'm sure it was quite a bit. And then the IMS Museum is featured on Time's annual list of world's greatest places, highlighting 100 extraordinary destinations to visit and stay. So that's impressive. Again, if you have not checked out the new museum, it is outstanding. Highly recommend. And continuing on with the Penske-affiliated theme, Roger Penske named the Grand Marshal the 74th Mobile in 12 Hours of Sebring, which is coming up next weekend, 60th anniversary season for Team Penske. And then finally, I think as we're wrapping things up, sad and unfortunate news for Marshall Pruitt. His wife's cancer has returned. That was posted by Will Buxton. The GoFundMe page is listed on Will Buxton's socials. You can check that out. So obviously just devastating news.
Yeah, terrible news, but great to see the support. $166,000 already raised for Marshall Pruitt and his wife as they go through another round of chemo. And hopefully Marshall commented, it's been 8 years of struggles, and felt like they were on the right end of it and returned. And hopefully this next round works as well as the previous rounds.
For sure. Absolutely. All right. With that, did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
There was a lot.
It's it's just a different feel when you're starting the season with so many races. It's amazing. It's great. We don't have to overanalyze St. Pete for 3-4 weeks, right? So now here we are, third race in 3 weeks, and looking forward to the inaugural Arlington Grand Prix coming up this weekend.
Tweets of the week time. First, from Bauer Racing, talking about Michael Jordan, that photo with Scott Dixon. Jordan is worth $4.3 billion according to Forbes, but still wearing jorts. Poet Shevchenko replied, I had posted about timing and scoring issues. Where was the leaderboard during the Phoenix race? And said, the leaderboard determines the points, and you guys aren't interested in championship points until after the 500. I thought that was great.
Well played.
This from Beyond the Flag. So the Cowboy Star logos on the track and some of the painting around Arlington. Beyond the Flag posted, imagine telling someone in 1996, first season of the IRL, that an IndyCar race would come to town before another NFC Championship game appearance, talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And then finally, from Nick J. Fletcher, it seems as if not scheduling them, talking about ovals, on the hottest weekends of the year at wherever they are in the middle of the day, not on a holiday weekend in a heavily populated lake part of the country, Mid-Ohio still baffles me, positively impacts attendance. I could be off, though. Mid-Ohio works because there's a lake right next to it.
Yes.
That's why it works.
There's a breeze and there's plenty of shade, right? But interestingly, popping up on my feed on Facebook this week was coverage of the 1984 Dallas Grand Prix Formula One race.
Yeah, where was that the one where the stuff was melting?
The track was disintegrating.
Yeah.
It was 100 degrees.
Yes.
The drivers were talking about boycotting the race. Only 8 cars finished. It was a disastrous one-time visit to Dallas for Formula One. It was ran on July 8th, 1984. So in the heart of the heat in Texas. So not the best idea. It was Nigel Mansell's first career pole in Formula One. There
you go.
The winner was Keke Rosberg. The first win for Honda in 20-some years in Formula One. But a race memorable for all the wrong reasons. Hopefully we don't have similar concerns coming in this week. At the very least, it's not going to be 100 degrees in Dallas.
That's the key. All right, time for our random split era driver of the week. Who we got this week?
Well, IndyCar's heading to Texas this weekend, and so we're going with a native Texan in Brandon Irwin, native of Denton, Texas. Most of his career is in stock cars and sprint cars, but in 2001 with McCormack Motorsports, he competed in 4 IndyCar races for the IRL in 2001. Phoenix was his first race in the IRL. It was also his best finish of 14th. He also had finishes of 17th at Homestead, 27th at Atlanta, and 22nd at Texas. He attempted but did not qualify for the 2001 Indianapolis 500. He then came back a couple years later and competed for Sam Schmidt Motorsports in Indy Pro Series, or the Infinity Pro Series at that point, a.k.a. Indy Lights. Had a best finish of 3rd at Homestead in 9 races. And that was it. Brandon Irwin then got into running sprint cars and wing sprint cars, did a lot of junior formulas and stuff in Texas, and he is currently working in law and real estate per his Wikipedia page. So not much on Brandon Irwin, but another random split era driver of the week, Mr. Brandon Irwin.
Never heard of him, I'll be honest.
Me neither.
Do not recall him racing in the 2001 IRL season. But here we are.
There we are, and a native Texan. So as Irwin is home in Texas, we head to Texas, at least the IndyCar Series this week in Arlington. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. For Justin Kinney, I am Caleb Hatch. We'll be back next week to recap the Java House Grand Prix at Arlington on New Track Record Podcast.